Mikey and I were riding out towards White Point Gardens and to do some nighttime investigating. This is our last night for a while. We want to catch something awesome. We may even walk around the city and see if we can catch any passerby ghosts. The girls wanted to stay in and pack up for tomorrow. Shoot. Most of what Mikey and I have are still in our separate bags. But hey, if they want to miss out on some paranormal excitement, well, that's cool. So we continue on our journey to the ghostesses. The streets are mostly dark, with lights littering up the dark roads ahead. This somber place makes you want to give up the mainland and roll out here and get whatever job and just live. And I don't need anything extravagant. Just a place to lay the old noggin down, and a place to shower, and well, there you go. But that's my idea of a good life. Enjoyment of this historical town and the beach half an hour away.
Where's all this goodness coming from? Listen to that positivity. And I sure want to be positive as we get down, baby. And as we get into that groove, you know what I mean, mama? And just making it real good for you. So you can just lose yourself in the grooving music.
We sweep the road ahead with excitement and a thrill of freedom to have fun. This is summertime, and we plan on making it a blast. We get the last bit to the battery, and we park in an area where there isn't a chance of getting a ticket. We get our gear ready, and walk down to where the plaque of Stede Bonnet and his men were hung. The White Point Gardens. The reason it was called White Point was because of the amount of oyster shells that was left behind by the local natives of the area. And during the war between the states officially started, well, it actually started when the Confederates fired onto the Union soldiers at Fort Sumter. There are probably more ghosts in this area than what written history can decipher. There aren't many ways to find out how many people were actually hung here, but it's estimated to be around 20 to 50 or so, but some stories tell that there's about 100 or even 200 hung here. And then there were soldiers, and those punished, that also hung here. And there are probably other specters of other types of misery. Women waiting for their long-last love that was supposed to have come back for their one true love. Or the family of anyone who was hung. No telling, but we are game for anything that wants to show itself. 23 pirates were hung, that of the gentleman pirate, Stede Bonnet. But it was once said that there was a pirate trying to make their revenge on this holy city. Turns out in the end that the gentleman pirate and his crew were some of the last pirates of these waters. Blackbeard evaded capture, and he was able to sail away, but not for long. As we slowly go around, to the right side of the gardens, we see a figure floating close to the ground. The reason? Well, this area had been built up a bit, and the original hanging place was lower than the ground that we walk on now. In the distant sky, we can see what looks like heat lightning. It lights up the sky with a little pink and a little purple. The colors of the lightning bring the low clouds to a brilliant glow, especially when it goes behind the gray clouds and makes it illuminate with fuller colors. And if we're lucky, we'll get to see the lightning vine through the night sky. Wouldn't that be a killer video? And maybe it would even help with more entities to show up. You know, the extra electric discharges in the air. We see some more lightning patterns across the sky. I guess it's storming kind of close to here. And it looks real pretty over the open water of the battery. We hear a few low rolls of thunder. That seems to be a fair piece away. As I zoom out, I can see the flashes of lightning, and I decided to start with the questions. And I make sure that I have plenty of battery, and yep, it is still full bars. I stand from the left and pan around ever so slowly. Hello? Can you hear me? Come talk to me. I'm here waiting to talk to someone. The thing that I'm holding will collect anything that you say. I don't hear anything, but I can see a slight vapor wave on the video, as well as the temper drop a bit. Or maybe it was just the cool wind off the battery's watered edge. Is there anyone here? Speak up, you know. Just talk or show yourself. I keep my camera steady. The moment of something being here and happening had just passed, and I guess I'll just have to keep it moving. I'll walk more to the right and start to head to the center where the bandstand is. As I move closer to the bandstand, I can see a light in my peripheral. We can see some bluish mist and figures walking around the opposite end of where we're filming. But I zoom in, and I get a very pixelated view of the night vision, so it looks more like a blue orb floating around than anything else. I move closer to the blue mist and keep the camcorder on subject, and by the time that I got about 15 feet away, it disappeared. "What?" I said, aggravated. I pan around, and I don't see anything. After a few moments of looking for something, anything, a glow starts from the opposite end. Ah, it wants to play games, eh? But I wasn't about running back and forth with this thing, so I started from where I was and began back at square one. We hang out for a bit and gather some good shots. Mikey has been hounding me about hurrying up so we can get back and go to sleep. "Ah, don't be a prima donna," I say in retort. But I get on with the last little bit that I wanted to get, but then after lots of silence and very little wind, we move on. There's a house called the Carriage House Inn, right off of the Battery. Most of the rooms have some kind of paranormal happening. We walk along the street, and I stop and zoom in on each window just to see if we can see any shadows or ghosts in the windows. I also pan around to the rest of the property. After a few minutes of viewing, I saw the battery was about to die, so I changed it out, and Mikey checks the EMF meter, and he changes the 9-volt in it as well. As we get ourselves situated and continue on with the investigation, we try to keep it as quiet as possible, because it's getting late and we don't want to alarm anyone, nor have the cops called on us. So we go around as much as we could on the front, because there was no way we could get in and investigate. The nighttime air feels amazing. I can feel a slight chill to the breeze that fills my nostrils with the salty ocean air. We finish up on the investigation, and we are confident that we have enough footage with something caught on it. We decided that we would head back and get some sleep, and I would go through the footage over the next few days, and then have everyone else help with the rest. We start on our way to Folly for a few, check out the waves, and maybe even get in for a bit. With the relaxing time on the beach, we strolled back to the car. The next day, we were on our way to Folly for a few, check out some waves, and maybe even get in for a bit. With the relaxing time on the beach, we strolled back to the car and back to Columbia. As we head back up, we hit the main taco spot that never lets anyone down, but it'll rush you to the toilet. After much needed food and about 20 tacos later, we hit the road. As we get down a few miles, the car started acting up, and as soon as I saw the rest stop, I decided to pull in, and as soon as I pulled into the parking spot, the car dies. Found out later it was the water pump. But after a long night of waiting for a tow truck and waiting for my parents to help us out, we finally get picked up, and Vicky and Mike were taken back by Dad. Mostly because I had to be up in an hour to be at work. And let me tell you, that was a long, long day. I came home and crashed right after Mom picked me up. We had finally gotten the car fixed, but let's not do that again. I check out each second of footage while having a pen and pad next to me, clocking the times. I have my VCR set up to record the footage that I found that has some paranormal or ghost footage. I also do the same with the cassette tapes. The recording process is primitive. I can do slow motion, and that's not even that great because it doesn't catch every second. It catches more like half the frames, so you lose a lot. Similar with the audio, I can only slow it down so much without losing any quality. Okay, so enough talk, so let it roll. First area that we get to is the circular church. The video pans around the yard of tombstones, and I can see the contrasting colors of green leaves and orange flowers popping out of the palms, and all under a gray sky that seems to deepen the colors. As the camera does its work, I hang on every frame. I watch it on my 19-inch TV, and I probably have to watch it a few times to see everything I can. Over the street sounds and the sounds of all of talking, I can hear some whispers over the speakers via my hi-fi stereo system. I can't hear words yet, but I try to listen more intently as I keep an eye out on the video for something. I can see what looks like movement around the mausoleum towards the back. It looks like there are shadows running from gravestone to tree and back to gravestone, and as if it were trying to get away from us livings. The clip doesn't last long and starts up from another area. The tape starts back up with my ugly mug on the screen, and I seem to wipe off the lens with my shirt and continue filming. As the amber glow of the street lamps light the area, as if it were an invitation to come and experience this place. The camera footage is about 35 minutes long, and the only real footage is actually when we get to the mausoleum. I can hear sounds coming from inside, and we try to look inside the keyhole. This is definitely note and VHS worthy. We can hear the gears inside winding the tape. I press play on the camcorder. I see a blue light on the screen, and it goes to the cemetery. I scan all over the area, and as it records, I don't really see anything that stands out as paranormal. But as it gets to the mausoleum, the tape flickers, and I can hear a sound that hadn't been there before. Don't go there. The camera moves to the door of the mausoleum and I hear the banter between Mikey and myself, and I can hear inaudible words being spoken. I can see the camera go up to the keyhole, and then a moment later, and it lights up from inside from the IR LEDs that we have. We do catch more voices, and can also see movement inside, go from one side to the next, and then back again. So I collect the rest of what we got, which was a few voices from the cassette tape, but they weren't clear enough to be able to make out words, but it was something out of the ordinary at least. Next is St. Philip's Church. There is a haunting of a woman who had lost her baby at birth, and her spirit can sometimes be seen kneeling over her child's grave. During other certain times, when the mist is up, there will also be sounds of a baby crying. As we go around this area, we don't catch anything. There's nothing to document here. We move on to the Provost Dungeon. The dungeon that is said to imprison Blackbeard and Stede Bonnet, and many of the cohorts of the Piratus Ways met their last days here at the Provost Dungeon and met their demise at the White Point Gardens. As we walk down the stairs to get to the dungeon, we pass a fellow dressed as a pirate, and as he passes us, he says for us to watch out and be on the lookout for any pirates. Even though we all remember seeing someone pass right by us, the camcorder footage had no one else there, but it also caught the voice, as if it were a whisper. So I wander around asking questions and waiting for a response while I'm live, or I will have to wait and hope to hear anything on the recording itself. I didn't get much footage. There was only a few blips in the corners, but when I panned back to it, there was nothing there at all. Later on the video, we got to the Poogan porch area. Poogan was a stray dog that hung out in this place, and after he had passed on to the next room, he decided to stay onto this property. Poogans didn't seem to yield much, but it was a fun spot to hit up. The Old City Jail. It's been stated that one of the most haunted places in all of the United States is the Old City Jail in Charleston. We go from area to area looking around and asking a few questions here or there and see if there is anyone who wants to talk. The camera captures the interior with IR LEDs and night vision, with night vision in full spectrum. As we enter the rooms, we can see an old wheelchair just sitting there. As I watch the screen, I can see shadow move from the back wall and move over to the left corner of the room. And then it started to creep right behind objects as if it were trying to stay hidden. The cam pans around to the right as I lose the sight of the beam. I keep watching and rewind a couple of times. And at the last couple of seconds, right before the camera goes off, there is a shadow right next to the wheelchair. And as the view pans, it looks like the wheelchair moved. But sadly, no. It was just the way it was recorded, and bupkis on the audio. We crept along to the rooms, and as we went from room to room, we would ask questions, and couldn't hear anything at the time. We hear a voice in other cells instead of this area that we're in. Moving deeper into the dark, cool rooms, and slowly walking around. As I walk in between the cells, I could hear something like whispers around me, but could also be the wind. I asked another round of questions and kept our pace steady. I can hear sounds like a scream in the distance. In some of the areas where the prisoners were kept, I could see a heat wave or something that is paranormal, because it isn't hot in here at all. Later, we move on to what's known as the Iron Room. As we walk from corner to corner, I ask who was there. From what I can hear,
Cade.
"Who are you?" I ask 2 or 3 times, and in between, I hear different names being said.
John.
"Who are you?"
Gwen.
"Come on, who are you now? Come on, speak up," I said.
Cade.
I walk to the center of the room and ask if there is anyone who wants to speak. I hear voices start to speak all at once, and I can't really hear anything because of the sheer volume of voices. And I didn't think that we would get anything. Yeah, right. "How many of you are here right now?" I hear different answers that sounded like numbers. But again, lots of voices, so it's hard to say. "Is there anyone here who is innocent of their crimes?"
Well, Paul didn't do anything.
"Who is the worst of crimes?"
Collins is, ain't he?
"Who is the best of the worst?"
Cade.
Near the entrance, we hear a groan. It was a struggle at first, but as I got a few more questions in, the groaning became more of a growl. Mikey walks over with the EMF meter and goes in for some readings. As we near closer to the door that leads to the dark hallway that seems darker than it was than when we first walked in, we hear another voice that seems to be coming from something else. And right behind that voice, we hear more talking. It was inaudible, but the cam crept closer. "Speak louder," I say. We hear more talking, and the only thing we can hear is "leave." And even other voices that didn't sound so angry towards us. I could barely hear the words,
Help me.
and,
Don't go.
"Are you innocent or guilty?" I holler. All right, who's really innocent?
Don't let them kill me.
I hear louder than the other voices that started to fill the halls and walls of this dooming place. As we move closer and closer to the hall, we see a dim light come from one of the cells. It's green and red and seems to have a pulse to its illumination. "Do you see that light ahead?" I asked Mikey. "Yeah, dude. I was just thinking it was me," Mikey says. "Well, come on, let's check it out," I say. We pick up our pace and we move to the cell with the lights that seem to fade with the screen, from something that didn't sound like a man or a woman. I pan the camcorder around as Mikey tries to get the readings from the EMF. I can hardly make out the shadows that seems to peer around the open cell door and dart from corner to corner as if they thought they couldn't be seen. There was even a few dark masses moving in our direction. I can see a light go out. It was the flash that I had connected to my belt. As I take the left side and Mikey takes the right, I trip over something that was in the middle of the floor. I stayed on the ground and panned the camera around. "Who did that?" I asked.
Get out of here.
"Come on, you can talk. Who did I stumble over?"
Don't worry about it. Just go.
From behind, I feel this whoosh of coldness, and it seems like I stepped into a restaurant's freezer. Mikey stopped where he was and looked at me and moved his EMF over to my area. "What?" I hear me asking. "It just jumped a few times," Mikey said. "Oh, word," I say. We hear the talking and chattering ahead to the stairs, and they seem to float down them. And of course, we follow. We keep going from floor to floor and trying to get something good on camera. But when we thought that we had come to a close of our night, we heard a loud yell from all around us. Not just a voice, it felt like we were at a concert. The sound of their yells was so loud that the tour guide told us it was probably safest if we leave now. We took him at his word and we rushed to the exit because the guide was already booking it. As the front door is thrown open by the guide, Mikey and I get to the door as it slams shut and ajar again. We walk out and I turn around and zoom in and try to get any shot through the windows that I can. I see the glare off the windows' street lights, and we move around. I can see what seems to be movement, but really can't see anything. As we were outside of the jail, the tape cuts. Okay, fine. Copy time. Charlestown Landing. Up ahead is a wooden plank-lined building that was a place of residence. I go inside. I pan around the building and stare at the screen till my eyes hurt. I hear a voice as I get near the table away from the cooking area. On the audio, I hear another set of voices. The crew wanting to get my butt over to where they are. The cam pans inside again, and nothing. As we get to the edge of the African cemetery, I start talking aloud. I just have a few questions to ask. Is there anyone here wanting to say something to us? Nothing. Can we help you? Zilch. Can you tell us who you are?
Genocide.
Then there's a silence. I pan around in 360 just in case there's a voice from a different area that had to say something. Come towards me if you want to talk. This thing that I have in my hand should be able to hear you, I say.
Can you help us? We don't know who you are.
Is there anyone who wants to say something or even touch me?
Come find me.
Well, if you don't want to show us that you're here, we're going to keep moving. Off camera, Sean swats at something near her shoulder, as if it were a bug or something invading her space. Haha, sweet. Can you do that again? I ask, as I pan the camera around to get Sean on screen. This time, Vicky starts to freak out a bit because she had a similar thing just happen to her. And I pan over to her, and then, of course, nothing. Dude, y'all go stand together, and I'll try to see if I can catch any video of it. Okay, I say louder. Touch some of them again, would you? I say. And I can see Vicky's hair slightly raise into the air, and then fall back down again. And Vicky didn't like that. And she was totally finished with the ghost hunting and wanted to get back to the room. The camera shuts off. Oh, copy guy. Oh, copy guy. As we watch and listen, we can hear a few sounds that hadn't been heard earlier. I rewind a few times while I'm alone in the first building that was erected back in the 1900s. But maybe some specter would gather here and try to communicate. And our skepticism, we actually could hear a voice and a word here and there. And as I panned around in the building, and there was a dark area that seemed to stay out of my frame, but I caught several seconds of a shadow hiding in the corners. And we didn't get anything else after that. Dock Street Theater. The tour guide walks to the front door, and we walk up to him and proceed inside. The camera starts to wander around and go down from row to row, and I'll make my way out more than I should have. And as I turn around, so does the camera, and when I get back steady, I can see movement off to the left, running off frame. So I keep watching through the rest of the tour with nada. So I had my headphones connected to the camcorder and try to listen, because of course it struck me as I left the room, but anyway, and I have them on just to see if I can hear anything. We go to our positions, and as we get close, we get to our positions, and we get close to where we need to be, and the tour guide turns the light down a bit. Thank you, I say, and the night vision kicks in way better and keeps the camera with the full spectrum and night vision in full bloom. As I look along the back walls, I can see a slight movement of light and shadows. From what I can see, it isn't like orbs, but white figures moving around the dark figures. Very odd, I thought. I zoom back out a bit and try to get a broad pan of the room, and I generate some questions to him. Is there anyone here? I hear myself say over the speakers.
Liza.
I hear. Do you want to say something to me? Because I'll be able to hear you with this thing. The camera goes from center stage to each area. So I pan up where Mikey is, and I keep a wide shot, but close enough to see anything that may appear. I I don't see anything right off, but a few seconds later, I can see a figure start to walk from behind Mikey. I continue to film and ask a question or two, and I zoom in a bit to where I see where the shadow was slinking around. And even from the tiny black and white viewfinder, I can see movement. I keep it steady to the form as it slowly dissipates.
Dang it!
I say. We keep going for another 10 minutes. I can see a few more of the shadows, but it seems that they don't want to be seen. I walk up to the center balcony and I pan through, and I don't see anything around the seating area, and I start to the right and go up towards the stage. And as the left side of the stage is in frame, I see a glimpse of something standing there. I can only hope that I can zoom in on it. And yep, but only a little bit, and hardly enough to see what is in the corner near the background. I look closer to the TV to see it better, but it was just a bunch of dots. And the lights fade back up and my eyes are a bit stunned by the sudden brightness. I sit back in my chair, because yep, you guessed it, the investigation is over. Copy, and on to the last little bit. I put on the last little bit of footage that I had. White Point Gardens. In the distant sky, we can see what looks like heat lightning. It lights up the sky with its pink to purple hue. As I zoom out, I can see flashes of lightning, and I decide to start with the questions. I make sure I have plenty of battery, and yep, still full bars I can see through the viewfinder. I stand from the left and pan around ever so slowly. Hello? Can you hear me? Come talk to me.
Hey.
In the distance. I am here wanting to talk to someone. The thing that I am holding will collect what you say. I see a slight vapor wave on the video and hear breathing come closer and closer. Is there anybody out there?
Yeah, can you not see me?
I hear over the speaker, as if it were distorted. Speak up, you know. Just talk or show yourself.
I'm right here in front of you. Can you not see me?
The camera pan is steady. The moment of something being here and happening has just passed, and I guess I'll have to keep it moving. I walk over to the right and start to head to the center of where the bandstand is. And as I move closer to the bandstand, I can see a light in my peripherals, as I did earlier. I moved closer to the blue mist that I saw and kept the camcorder on the subject. And by the time I got 15 feet away, it disappeared. But I hear a whoosh of wind by the microphone and some laughter. A glow starts from the opposite end, but it only looks like from a dot on the TV. Ah, wants to play games, eh? I hear over the speakers. But I get on with the last little bit that I wanted, and then after, lots of silence and very little wind. The video stops with nothing more than about 10 minutes of more searching. The camera starts up again at the Carriage House Inn, right off of the battery. As we walk along the street, and I stop and zoom in on each window. The only thing I catch is the curtain moving just a little bit. I also pan around to the rest of the property. After a few minutes of viewing, I saw that my battery was about to die, and I see a bit of the screen skipping. It starts to flicker and goes back to normal view. I see something move from one end of the frame to the other, and I have to say that it wasn't a bug. Nor did Mikey walk in front of the camera, because he was seen moments later on the opposite side of what the band walked to. The camera goes to the ground and shuts off. Alrighty, I say to myself. Yeah, I guess I have to get this one recorded and let the crew see it Saturday, when we get together for some fry bread and chili. We all check out the footage, and everyone saw and heard the same things that I did. So from our eyes, this was a pretty good investigation birthday weekend.
And now, just chill by your radio daddy-o and just take a personal moment with the song in the background. It's time to play that smooth and mellow goodness. We have hung out a lot together and have had a lot of good times with you, baby. And I want you beside me as I play this next tune. Let's ride, boldly ride to the next, baby.